Kane was already dying when the desert tried to finish him. 5 raiders behind him, a dead engine beneath him, and then the ground itself opened. A buried starship woke up, its ramp slammed down, and a blue-skinned girl screamed at him like he owed her rent. "Get on, you ugly piece of meat!" The desert wasn't just hot. It felt alive, like a living creature determined to swallow Kane whole. His buggy rattled beneath him, every bolt screaming in protest as he fought to keep it moving. The engine spat smoke, coughed twice, and made a noise that sounded suspiciously like it was giving up on life altogether. Behind him, the raiders were closing in. Their scavenger bikes bounced across the dunes, engines roaring with the kind of confidence only people holding fully loaded rifles had. Kane glanced over his shoulder, vision blurred from sweat and blood. 5 of them, maybe 6. Hard to count when every breath felt like glass slicing through cracked ribs. "Come on, 1 more mile," he whispered to the buggy like it owed him a favor. "Just 1. Pretend you're useful." The buggy responded by dying completely. The wheels locked. The engine exhaled a final puff of black smoke. Gravity did the rest. Momentum carried him up a dune's spine, sand whipping against his face. He could hear raiders laughing now, real, genuine laughter. The kind people make when they know their target is done running. Kane tightened his grip on the wheel. "If I die today, at least let me die landing somewhere soft," he muttered. The universe disagreed. The buggy slammed into something solid, something completely out of place in the endless sea of sand. The impact launched Kane forward. He hit metal, then sand, then pain, all in one violent, breath-stealing blur. For a moment, the world tilted sideways. The sky pulsed in and out of focus. His heartbeat felt too loud, like it was trying to alert the desert he was still alive. He pushed himself up using his one good arm. The thing he had crashed into, it wasn't a rock, or a dune, or anything natural. It gleamed beneath the sand. Rusted metal, sharp geometric edges, and a faint shimmer as if it were breathing under centuries of dust. A ship, buried. Enormous. Kane blinked hard. "Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's crash into history." The raiders crested the dune behind him, weapons raised. And then the ground vibrated. A deep groan rose from inside the buried hull, like the ship itself was stretching after a long sleep. Sand cascaded in rivers as a massive ramp unfolded with violent mechanical force, slamming into the desert floor. Kane stared, and from the darkness, a small blue-skinned girl stepped into the light, lifted a spear, and screamed. The ramp swallowed Kane like the mouth of a sleeping giant, and for a second, he wondered if he just traded one death for another. The moment his boots hit metal, the ramp jerked upward, sealing off the desert light. Darkness collapsed around him, thick, heavy, almost physical. It smelled of cold stone, ancient air, and something faintly metallic, like a forgotten machine remembering how to breathe. Kane's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He dragged in a breath and winced at the stabbing pain along his ribs. "Great!" he muttered into the void. New environment, same pain. A soft glow flickered, spiderwebbing through the walls like veins awakening under skin. The corridor lit up, not with electricity, but with something organic, bioluminescent patterns, pulsing gently in shades of blue and violet. Murals emerged from the shadows. Long-forgotten figures with blue skin and glowing eyes, painted in ceremonial poses, holding jars, tools, or water as if offering it to the heavens. Kane blinked. Either I'm hallucinating, or I just discovered someone's ancient art gallery. A sharp tap echoed nearby. He turned and nearly fell over. The blue-skinned girl stood barely a meter away, spear lifted, eyes glowing like twin lanterns. Up close, she looked even younger, maybe 10, maybe less, but carried herself like someone who had never been allowed to be a child. She jabbed the spear at him, not hard enough to wound, but clear enough to send the message. Don't move unless she said so. Don't bleed on the floor, she ordered flatly. Blood corrupts the threshold. Kane stared at her. I don't mean to be rude, he rasped, but I'm kind of leaking by accident. She narrowed her eyes. Control your leaking. A laugh nearly escaped him, but it hurt too much. I'll work on that. She stepped closer, spear still ready. I am LRA, last tombkeeper of the vessel of waters, guardian of 103 sleepers. Her chin lifted in pride, but her voice wavered, just for a second. Kane raised his hands in surrender. Kane Reeves, professional runner away from raiders, amateur crasher of ancient ships. She did not smile, at all. Instead, she studied him with unsettling intensity, as if trying to decide whether he was worth saving or throwing back outside. The ship hummed around them, responding to her presence. Lights brightening when she moved, softening when she stilled. Then the metal beneath their feet trembled. LRA's expression hardened instantly. They're cutting through the outer hull, she whispered. The raiders found us. Kane swallowed. So what now? She slid into a warrior's stance, spear angled like an extension of her body. Now, she said, voice calm and terrifying, we fight. The first impact rattled the hull like a warning shot from the dead. A deep metallic shudder traveled through the ship, dust drifting down in soft spirals. Then came a second strike, louder, closer, followed by the unmistakable hiss of cutting torches chewing through ancient metal. Kane felt his stomach tighten. They're really committed, aren't they? LRA didn't answer. She was already moving, quiet, focused, frighteningly efficient. Her small frame cast a long shadow in the blue-lit corridor, spear gripped with the confidence of someone who'd practiced its weight 1,000 times. She halted near a choke point where the passage narrowed. Stay behind me, she said. Kane snorted. I can still help. No, she cut him off without looking back. You can bleed. That is different. Before he could argue, the corridor erupted with noise. Metal peeled open like a wound, and the first raider climbed through, eyes widening at the sight of the girl. He grinned, raising his rifle. Well, look what we... LRA moved before he finished. One heartbeat she stood still. The next she was a blur. Her spear sliced the air, catching the blue glow as it arced. The raider dropped with a choked gasp, weapon clattering beside him. Kane stared. You're really not kidding about the whole Guardian thing? A second raider barreled in, then a third. The narrow corridor worked against them. LRA fought like water, flowing, redirecting, never hesitating. Every strike was precise. Every movement belonged to someone trained for a duty she never asked for. But she was still just one child against too many enemies. A fourth raider fired wildly. Bullets ricocheted off the walls, one screaming past Kane's ear. LRA spun, spear deflecting another shot, but the final bullet was aimed directly at her chest. Kane didn't think. He lunged, tackling her sideways. A blast of agony tore through his ribs as the bullet buried itself into his side. The world spun violently. He crashed to the floor, breath ripped away like air sucked from a vacuum. LRA scrambled up, eyes blazing. Not with fury, but fear. Why would you do that? She shouted, voice cracking. Kane coughed, tasting blood. Seemed rude to let you take it. The raider aimed again. LRA's scream tore through the corridor, a sound raw enough to shake the walls. She launched forward, spear flashing, ending the threat with a strike fueled not by training but by panic. Kane slumped against the mural-covered wall, vision dimming, pain spreading like wildfire in his veins. Poison round, he whispered. LRA froze. For the first time since he met her, she looked like a child. No, she whispered, voice trembling. No, no, no. She dropped to her knees beside him, hands shaking as she tried to steady his head. Don't die, meat, she said, tears forming. Not you. LRA's hands shook as she dragged Kane deeper into the ship, his blood leaving a jagged trail across the ancient metal. The walls pulsed brighter with every drop, as if the tomb itself sensed something slipping away. Kane's breathing turned uneven, shallow. Each inhale sounded like sandpaper scraping bone. Stay awake, LRA ordered, voice tight. If you die, I will bring you back and yell at you again. Kane managed a weak smile. Not much of a motivator. She ignored him, pushing open a carved stone panel with far more strength than her small frame suggested. The metal groaned, revealing a descending ramp bathed in soft blue mist. "Where are we going?" Kane murmured. "Where the tomb keeps its heart." She guided him down, half carrying, half dragging. The air grew colder, fresher, strangely alive. The faint whisper of flowing moisture echoed through the chamber like distant breath. When they reached the bottom, Kane sucked in a stunned breath despite the pain. The room was enormous. So vast the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Massive pillars lined the edges like guardians standing vigil. But the true marvel stood at the center. A towering column of crystal, glowing with a rhythmic pulse, inhaling dry air and exhaling shimmering vapor. The water condenser. Not a machine, not entirely. More like a living engine carved from ancient brilliance. The air sparkled around it, droplets forming midair then drifting away in delicate spirals. Kane stared. "That thing. It's alive." LRA nodded, placing a trembling hand on his forehead. "It is the last gift of my people. Without it, the desert wins." She lowered him beside a carved basin filled with mineral shards and stored water. Her fingers moved quickly, crushing, mixing, muttering fragmented ritual words through tight breaths. She dipped her fingers into the glowing mixture and lifted Kane's chin. "This will hurt," she warned softly. "Everything already hurts," he whispered. "Go for it." The liquid touched his tongue, and the world exploded inside him. Fire raced through his veins, burning out the venom in a flood of scorching heat. His spine arched, teeth clenching until tears stung his eyes. Then, just as violently as it came, the fire receded. He collapsed back, gasping. The numbness was gone. Pain remained, but life returned with it. LRA exhaled shakily, relief flickering across her face. "Good. You stay alive." Before Kane could respond, the chamber trembled violently, dust raining from above. LRA stiffened. They found the entrance to the condenser. Kane forced himself upright. "If they take it, the wasteland dies." Her jaw tightened. "Then we stop them." Another explosion rocked the ship, closer, louder. Kane looked at the condenser, then at her, and finally at the corridors above them. He understood the impossible choice forming, and so did she. The next explosion struck so close the floor jumped beneath them. Kane grabbed a pillar, steadying himself as chunks of dust drifted down like pale snow. The raiders weren't guessing anymore. They knew exactly where the condenser was, and they were coming fast. LRA spun toward him, eyes blazing with a terror she refused to name. "They will break through. They'll take everything. The condenser. The tomb. My ancestors." Her voice tightened, thinning with panic. "We can't win. Not like this." Kane followed her gaze to the crystal column, its pulse quickening with each tremor above. A living engine, a living tomb, a living memory. He thought of the buggy, of the fuel cell still strapped inside its shattered frame. A desperate plan formed, terrible, brutal, but their only chance. "If I overload my fuel cell," Kane said, "I can collapse the entrance tunnels. Seal this place. Buy you time, maybe years." LRA froze. "You will die." Kane exhaled slowly. "Yeah, probably." Her spear slipped in her grip. No, it wasn't a command. It was a plea, soft, cracked. The voice of a child who'd carried too much for too long. "You don't get to die. Not after I saved you. Not after you saved me." He stepped closer, resting a shaky hand on her shoulder. "You said you were the last tombkeeper." His voice softened. "But you shouldn't have to be." Before she could answer, a deafening crash tore through the upper corridor. Raiders spilling into the level above like a flood of armor and dust. LRA's breath hitched. "They're here." Kane didn't hesitate. He turned toward the ramp. "Stay behind the condenser. No matter what." But the moment he stepped away, the walls lit up, brighter than before. Blue fire raced through every line of the ship, every mural, every pillar. The condenser hummed like a rising storm. LRA gasped. "The tomb. It's waking." A sudden surge of energy rippled outward. The ground shook, Not from raiders, but from something deeper. Ancient systems roared to life. Light burst through the cracks in the ceiling, and the raiders froze mid-stride, perfectly still, trapped in a silent, shimmering field. They crumbled into dust. Kane stared in stunned disbelief. What just happened? LRA stepped toward him. The blue glow reflected in her eyes. The tomb protects what it chooses. She looked at him, really looked. And it chose you too. The walls pulsed, waiting. LRA lifted her spear, voice steady once more. There must be two guardians. Always. Kane felt the answer before he spoke it. A pull, a belonging he hadn't felt in years. I'm staying, he said quietly. She smiled, small, trembling, real. Then kneel. He knelt before her and the glowing tomb. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Do you swear to guard this place? I swear. To protect what remains? I swear. To stand beside your fellow tombkeeper? Kane lifted his gaze to hers. I swear. Blue light erupted around them, warm, powerful, alive, binding them not as strangers, but as partners. LRA lowered her spear and whispered, voice soft with victory and relief. And that's how a dying wanderer and a fierce blue child became the last guardians of a forgotten world. If you enjoyed this story and want more adventures from the wasteland, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until the next story, stay alive out there.